Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the Ski Mask Podcast and True Crime Stories.
With Mrs. and Mr. D.
That's all we're going by because we stay anonymous and stuff like that. We don't need any weirdos out there giving out some type of strange energy towards us. Not built like that personally.
No, definitely not. All right, for this first episode, let's just get into it. I will be telling our first story. My sources for this story are the truecrimedatabase.com, murderpedia.org, wegotThiscovered.com, wikipedia.org, and californiasun.co. So, as you can guess, this takes place in California. California ranks among the highest states in the U.S. for frequent and devastating fires.
We already know that.
Yeah. But my story today isn't about the wildfires that they have. It's about an outbreak of suspicious, destructive fires that terrorized southern to mid-California in the 1980s and early 1990s. So, starting on October 10th, 1984, a devastating fire broke out at Ol's Home Center hardware store in South Pasadena, California. The blaze ignited the store's plastic plant section, fueled by highly flammable materials, obviously. And within 5 minutes, the entire store was engulfed in flames. Fire crews rushed to the scene, but the speed and heat of the fire made rescue impossible. Tragically, 4 people lost their lives in this fire. Ada Deal, age 50, and her two-year-old grandson, Matthew Troidel. Caroline Krause, 26, a mother of 2, and 17-year-old Jimmy Satina, a store employee working that day. So the following day, fire investigators from multiple Southern California agencies arrived on scene to inspect the damage. And after their careful examination, they unanimously, oh my gosh.
You mean unanimously?
Unanimously. Oh, goodness. Unanimously concluded the fire had been accidental. Most likely caused by an electrical malfunction.
Okay.
But there was one seasoned fire captain and lead arson investigator that wasn't convinced of this. He argued that because of the burn patterns and the speed of the flames, pointed to arson. And at first, very few listened to him, but over time, he would actually be proven right.
Okay.
So later on, investigators, after further research and looking into this fire, they discovered that the fire had indeed been started using an incendiary device, one that was designed to burn slowly and then erupt into flames only after the arsonist was long gone.
What?
Incendiary device?
Incendiary device?
Yes. You looking that up?
Yeah, look, you have to.
No worries. It's basically just a device that arsonists put together to, instead of just lighting a match and immediately having a fire, it's like as if there's some, think of like how if ashes land on something, it slowly builds up the fire.
Okay, yeah. See, I'm seeing it right here.
Yep.
According to, what's this called? Disarmament. Disarmament.org? What the hell? Disarmament.org, whatever. I'm going to just say that. Incendiary device are weapons of...
And I could be saying it wrong, but pronunciation is not what our podcast is about.
Yeah, no, not at all. That set fire to objects or cause burns or respiratory injury to people. So this is like, okay, I see. White phosphorus, napalm, and thermite. Okay. That goddamn napalm is considered an incendiary device?
Yep.
Oh, so they was up there just... bro was up there pretending like we were back in Vietnam. God damn, boy.
Truly, I know. Basically, the reason he did this, though, is so that he could escape before the fire even started. So he was long gone before flames were even present.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's the purpose of this device he used, is so that it would burn so slowly that the flames erupted after he was long gone. And so it was a lot harder to track him down because of this.
Fiend.
Truly, I know. He was very clever. And crazy enough, this is not a one-time event. So from 1984 to 1991, a disturbing pattern of fires began to emerge across Southern California. Each scene revealed the same kind of homemade device.
Right.
So his device had things such as matches, cigarettes, rubber bands, lined yellow writing paper, and sometimes pillowcases in order to conceal the device. And this is what earned him his mysterious arsonist a nickname in the press. And they ended up calling him the Pillow Pyro. I know.
My boy.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, how did he so I know that, for the incendiary device, it's used to cause stuff. It causes burning slowly and stuff like that, and builds on top of each other. But how did he start the fire and put it inside the pillowcase?
Well, it wasn't like a fire. It's as if you had, think about camping and you have like coals or the embers on wood left over.
Yeah.
But under the right circumstances, if you were to place something over top of that, it's not going to happen immediately. But after several minutes, whatever you place on top could catch on fire, especially using fabric. That's why he used pillowcases. Is one, because it hid the device so you couldn't see it, and two, it,
right,
is flammable.
Right, yeah.
Fair. But not immediately flammable. So that's my assumption as to why. I'm not like a full expert in this, but based on like reading it, that's why he did use things like cigarettes.
Okay, that makes perfect. Yeah, that
so like a used
sense.
Cigarette, like using that is gonna help. And then he kind of just like tied things together with rubber bands and had paper in there as a fire starter. But then the pillowcase was to conceal it and help the fire to spread once the flames developed.
Good Lord.
Yeah, really clever, So
yeah, clever, but R.I.P. to the people who died.
Yeah, don't do this, and it is tragic to those four people that were caught in the flames.
Right.
So again, the Pillow Pyro, that is where he gets his name from. So these fires were found everywhere. It wasn't a specific target necessarily. They were in hardware stores, fabric shops, craft stores, but all targets that had flammable goods just packed into these buildings. So any building that had enough flammable goods was a target for this guy. And then this lead investigator that was like convinced that this was an arsonist, whenever he arrived on the fire scene, he helped take the lead in determining where the fires were started.
Right.
So he has a lot of experience. His peers admired him, his reputation grew, and he was deemed the expert on these cases. In January of 1987, arson investigators from around the state gathered in Fresno for a conference on arson detection.
Oh boy.
Fresno.
The heart of the Central Valley right there.
Yep. It's quite the place.
The city of second chance. Oh wait, no, I think not my fault. I think the city of second chances is technically Bakersfield, huh?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
I think it's Bakersfield, but no, go ahead.
But don't worry, Fresno lives up to its reputation. Mm-hmm. So while they were meeting, something strange and terrifying happened. Fires broke out in Fresno itself.
Of course.
So as all these investigators from around the state are gathered in Fresno for like a few-day conference on how to catch arsonists.
Right.
Fresno didn't have any fires before. There started being fires as they're doing this. So it was like mocking the investigators.
No, you're mocking them too, because you would think that they're gathered over in Fresno, right?
Yeah.
So, and people who don't know, because there's people who might be out of state
right.
don't know California like that. Like, if these fires were happening in San Francisco, LA is roughly from Fresno 5.5 hours or so. 4.5, 5.5 hours from Fresno.
Right.
Same thing with San Francisco. Probably you're talking about 4 hours or something from San
Yeah,
Francisco.
it's kind of in the middle of the two-ish.
Yeah, because it's dead center in the heart of California.
Yep.
So it's like for him to do it there is just like he's just testing their gangster at that point because he could have done it in LA like 4 hours away, right. 5 hours away, or whatever.
And the fact he's doing it while all of like the state's arson investigators are here for their arson conference, a conference literally designed to be like, hey guys, here's how we catch arsonists. He is just laughing in their faces right now.
Sickening.
It's crazy.
Sick work.
So as they're at this conference, the first fire in Fresno struck a local drugstore, igniting a sleeping bag display they had inside.
Bro.
And almost immediately after this fire started, another one broke out across the street in a fabric store. Almost immediately after.
Bro.
And then soon after that, still all while this conference, like weekend type conference is going on,
right.
In the nearby town of Tulare, more fires. Another drugstore and another fabric store.
Right.
So.
She means Tulare, guys.
Tulare, my bad. Then, like you mentioned, in Bakersfield,
oh boy,
a dried flower display in a craft store ended up going up in flames.
In a craft store?
In a craft store. He put his device where the dried flower display was. Perfect thing.
No, facts. And again, too, so Fresno is like an hour and a half, just to let you know, too. Well, you probably already know. But Fresno is an hour and a half away from Bakersfield.
Right.
And Tulare, talking, I forget, maybe like 40 minutes, something away from Fresno. So
right. Basically, like started in Fresno, went to Tulare, and then went to Bakersfield.
Yeah, because Fresno, Bakersfield, I think Tulare is somewhere off west or east of where Fresno is.
Okay, got you. But anyways, this whole like Central Valley / they said kind of Southern California fires breaking out. And all of these fires for the same signature time delay devices. The ones that had occasionally a pillowcase, the matches, the cigarettes, the yellow lined writing paper.
Right.
Oddly specific, but you know. So by this time, investigators were growing desperate because there are numerous fires breaking out, and they've already had 4 deaths.
Shoot.
So this arsonist was obviously becoming very bold, very precise, and very cockily confident, I would say. You know?
Domestic terrorism.
Right, doing it right under their noses. And he knew exactly how to avoid witnesses and detection. So there's not a single witness seeing anyone suspicious in these areas.
Right.
So they have nothing to go off of. They also don't seem to have any fingerprints on these devices either. So they're at a loss. But you get some detectives trying to think, okay, this guy's a little too good. Could the Pillow Pyro be someone with insider knowledge? Is he a firefighter? Is he an investigator? Or is he another first responder?
A firefighter would be evil.
Truly.
A firefighter would be truly. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking like Army. You know, maybe because I watched too many movies, but I was thinking like Army, former Navy SEAL, Army Ranger.
Maybe someone with PTSD, you know, something going on.
Something where they were involved in some type of war. Right. That would make sense to me because the Vietnam War back then, you're talking about this took place in the 80s, right?
80s and 90s, yeah.
Yeah, so the Vietnam War, you know, that was back mid-70s, so it would make sense. But
right.
Dang, I mean, firefighter is just like...
I mean, they're at a loss, though. They have no real evidence to go off of. Right. Just these devices, which have seemingly have no fingerprints.
Yeah.
I mean, and the technology then, it's not as bad as it was in like crimes in the 70s, you know? They're
Right, right.
starting to develop this pretty solid foundation for genetic testing. It's not fully there, but, you know, they should be able to find something, but
Yeah.
they can't.
Okay.
So, you know, so that's where detectives are just reaching at straws at this point because they're like, okay, this guy's good. He's avoiding detection like crazy. He is timing these a little too good.
Right.
Maybe he is someone with some type of insider knowledge, right?
Mm.
But again, they have no solid leads and they are stuck. And that is until fate handed them a really unexpected clue. Okay? So in the early 1990s, an investigator, one of the investigators, stumbled upon an unpublished novel manuscript titled Points of Origin.
What the?
So this manuscript, this story, it was a firefighter who secretly sets fires.
What the?
So he could be seen as a hero by putting them out. So this is just a manuscript one of the investigators found.
Right.
Crazy.
That's like, no, like that's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of Batman releasing prisoners so he can.
Truly.
So he could just straight beat them half to death.
The hero being the criminal.
Right, exactly.
It's insane. And so this story is about a firefighter who starts fires just so he can put them out and be the hero. But this story, this unpublished novel manuscript that they found,
right,
is not just fiction, you know. So they assume, because as they further read, they see that the fires described in this book they found, the methods, the actual target locations, and the devices were all perfectly matched the real life Pillow Pyro blazes. Just think about that.
I feel like
it's crazy.
I feel like all like criminals want to get caught at some point. You know,
they
what I mean?
kind of do, especially if you see something like this.
Right.
Investigator trying to figure out, reaching at straws. They have no leads, no clues to go off of. Finds a manuscript that perfectly details the method, the device the manuscript describes what items were in the device to a T. The actual store locations, the fabric store, the craft store, the hardware store, everything is to a T.
Dear Lord.
And so they're like, it has to be a firefighter. You know?
I mean, it would make sense how they know how to, you know, how they would know how to do all this stuff.
Right, how they
perfectly.
Do it so well. So, who was the author of this manuscript? Kind of stupidly, his name's on the manuscript.
Bro.
But anyways.
Good Lord.
His name is John Leonard Orr.
Of course.
And did you have any guesses for who this man was?
He was the chief of the fire department, huh?
John Leonard Orr was that same respected fire captain and arson investigator who was at the center of these cases for years. He is the one who, for the first fire, said the first fire that they deemed an accident due to electrical, he's the one who said, no, this is arson. When no one believed him. No one believed him that it was an arson. Everyone was like, no, this is definitely an electrical malfunction. It's an accident. He was like, no, this is arson. And every time he was on scene, he basically would stroke his mustache and say, the fire originated from over there. And was right almost every single time. And he's the one who wrote this manuscript.
Bro, putting your name on...
Stupidity.
And then the fact, too, that, like, the first fire you did led to, like, 4 people's deaths.
I know.
I'm like...
And the fact that you wouldn't stop after that?
No, not even that. It's just...
Yeah.
Not even that. It's the fact that it's like you caused 4 people's deaths, and then you write this manuscript, and you don't even, like... use a different name.
His name's on it.
You don't even use like different streets, like like make it as if it's like a whole different story or from a whole different town.
Right.
You use the exact same streets that were in like all these places down in California, in Fresno and stuff like that, and Tulare and Bakersfield.
It's crazy.
It's just like, bruh.
It's illogical. It doesn't make sense.
At all.
No. So the man who had these supernatural instinct for the fire's origins, the man who warned that first original fire, like you were saying, was no accident, it's all because he knew. He is the one who started all these fires. So investigators started to look into him, and they were like, okay, it's time to re-examine some old evidence, just so we can like for sure pin this on him. Not pin, but for sure prove that it's him.
Yeah, get accurate evidence so you can actually
because
convict
you could
him.
argue that the manuscript is like, I don't know, some type of like imaginary fan fiction. Oh, this would be cool. Fiction. You could argue it's a work of fiction. So they go back to their old evidence, and what they find is a partial fingerprint recovered from one of those devices that took place at the Fresno fire matched his fingerprint. And the reason they thought there were no fingerprints is because like he's one of the lead arson investigators.
I know, it's like a perfect set. It's the perfect excuse.
They're not going to think, oh, it's him because his fingerprint. He's obviously there. But they start to look at other evidence. His car was seen near several of the fire locations, even the ones far outside of his official jurisdiction.
Bruh.
His manuscript had practically confessed to the crimes. And so Orr was arrested in 1991.
Yeah, you have like the perfect amount of circumstantial evidence. He's
But not even circumstantial. They do have a fingerprint on the device.
Yeah,
paired
that's
with
true.
Everything else.
That's true.
So the fingerprint's not necessarily circumstantial, So he goes to court, and he ends up being charged with 4 counts of murder from the 1984 Olds Home Center fire.
Yeah, what I expected.
Here's the craziest part. Over 2,000 fires were eventually linked to him.
2,000?
Over 2,000.
So that means like his whole entire career, this man was just setting fires.
He'd been doing this for a long time.
So if anybody else burned up in these fires, he'd probably be convicted of those murders too.
He would, yep. So over 2,000 were for sure linked to him. Those are the for sure ones. And of these over 2,000 fires, they ended up causing around $30 million in damages. So, unsurprisingly, John Leonard Orr was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And here's another part I find really crazy. In his later writing, so after he's sentenced and everything, he writes, he likes writing, obviously. That's kind of what got him caught.
Right.
But, in some of his later writings, he hinted and sometimes outright confessed to even more fires. Ones that had never been officially connected to him, and still to this day haven't. But he hints to them and outright confesses to some of them. Right. So that's why they're saying over 2,000. The real number is unknown.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So for years, Southern and Central California burned. These fires killed people, they destroyed and scared the community. And the man that was leading the investigation played both arsonist and savior.
I feel like that's the first time that you could say, like how I was telling you, that you could say, like, F the fire department, because that's like... That's sick work.
Yeah.
That's nasty work.
So that is the story of John Leonard Orr, a once trusted fire captain, admired arson investigator, and a secret serial arsonist.
Hold on, I gotta look up. So you said it's called 1991, right? Or 19.
Yeah, he was arrested in 91.
So we'll just put 1990 compared to then, and then I'm gonna put, if this will even let me, put 30 million.
Oh yeah. Doing the inflation calculator.
Yeah. Good Lord, that's the equivalent today of $73.6 million in damage. Plus 4 people killed.
Yeah, which you can't tie a number to that.
Right. It's just exactly. It's like, so you caused almost $100 million in damage.
It's a miracle he didn't kill more people with how many fires he set. And it's not like these were abandoned buildings or anything.
I know
These are stores.
That's crazy. It's like, why would you not do it to? It's just like, I've been to Fresno and a lot of these places. You cannot tell me that back then they did not have these abandoned buildings and factories that you could set on fire.
Right.
It's
no,
like
truly. It's that hero complex.
Bro, it's crazy. They put anybody in charge of this crap, I swear.
I know. It's like it's amazing to me that like he wasn't caught sooner.
Right.
But the reason he was caught is because of this manuscript.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is really the perfect cover. You know, being the one, like pretty much the lead arson investigator, it's not going to be like, oh, you were there at all of them. Oh, your fingerprint, you know? You're not going to look at that sideways. You're not even going to consider that.
No, it's like a detective back then, back in the 80s and stuff, contaminating evidence or something by accident. And it's like, well, you're not going to think that the detective or the cop ended up killing the person because it's just like, well, of course they were there investigating the murders.
No, exactly.
They, they're investigating, that criminal and trying to apprehend them. So
yeah,
it's the same type of thing going on. It's
I mean, and it explains why he was there in Fresno at the conference, why those fires were there.
Yeah,
and started there during the conference is because he was at the conference.
I know, right? Yeah, no, literally.
Like it was like an addiction to him. Truly, like it's almost as if he had like a high from starting these fires and then saving people from them, if you could even call it that.
Yeah, that's extremely sick work. That's crazy. Oh my god, like, yeah, I don't even know if I have any more words for that.
What else can you say? It's insane. So yeah, that is my first story.
Well, that's a good story for the first podcast, to be real with you. Like,
I thought it was a pretty captivating and interesting one. I read this and was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
So had this started off right.
Just to let y'all know too, like, we're not going to be sharing any of these stories with each other.
Oh, right.
So these are stories that are brand new to the other person that it's being told to. So she's telling the story to me. This is brand new information and news to me. I didn't read anything about this. In fact, she hides the computer from me.
I do. So I turned it away.
But I can't even see the information she has written down or anything.
And the same thing for next time is he's going to take a turn to tell a story to me. So we are hiding these stories and just finding stories and crimes that we find interesting personally and telling them to each other for the first time. Just because, like, it is a very captivating thing to talk about. It itches that part of your brain that is just like trying to make sense of something you can't logically make sense of.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. And the podcast too, it's going to be told. All these stories are being told in a very, we're in the kitchen right now. We're in the we're in the dining room area. This is a very casual conversation where we get the information that we can correctly, and we get it from from pretty decent, accurate sources as well, and we format it decently for you guys. But this is just a conversational type of thing,
Yeah.
just to really pass time for everyone and tell some really interesting and intriguing stories too. So
Yes.
we're not trying to take ourselves too seriously.
No, we're really not.
Pinpoint. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's very relaxed, very conversational type of thing going on here, just to let you know.
Right.
Going deeper into the podcast as we come out with more episodes.
Don't hold it against us if we're slightly wrong on some of our facts. Doing the best research we can, but there's a lot of resources out there, so don't hold it against us. Yeah. We're not here as like a fact crime reporting. It is more of that conversation, discussion, storytelling, but trying to be as accurate as possible for sure.
Exactly. If you guys want more information about it, we will also. She read off where she got the sources and stuff from.
I'll be putting them in the episode description as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's it for our first episode.
Yeah, that's a wrap, y'all. All right, we'll get back to you next time.